Disruptive change with the ongoing pandemic exposing the vulnerability.
Immunity boosting product, enhancing direct distribution reach to rural marketing. Welcome to the CPG Summit, part of Manufacturing Powering Economic Recovery series. We've had some great sessions lined up for you today. And to kickstart the first session with CPG taking center stage, we're now joined by Mr. R.S. Sodhi, the MD of Amul, and Mr. Dilip Sahni, MD of Rockwell Automation India. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. Mr. Sodhi, just when things looked like they were on the mend, once again, we are dealing with this deadly second wave. While milk has always been considered in the essential services category, back then and even now, but there would have been some business dislocations. What were the measures that you took last time which have held you in good stead today?
You see, first thing was informing all the members what type of safety measures you have to take, right from sanitization, social distancing, and also sanitization of all road milk tanker. Second is how to make the payment to them. So digitally all the payment was transferred. 140 crore rupees per day was transferred or given cash to around every day 27 to 28 lakhs of farmers' family during this lockdown, and now also when there was no other source of livelihood. And also locating our tankers when they are collecting. Where the tanker has, with the help of GPS, we could make out if our particular tanker has been stopped at Goa border, going milk. So you have to talk to the respective SP or the Chief Secretary of Goa to get the permission. So similarly, distribution of our milk. So each distributor, each retailer is on our distribution management system to ensure that they are getting the milk as per their requirement. Now we can see centrally looking at our dashboard that in Patna or in Kanpur or Lucknow or Delhi, which city, which road, which outlet is able to get the milk timely or not. So all these systems we could monitor through technology and the digital technology, and we could work uninterruptedly during this COVID last time or this time.
Fair enough, Mr. Sodhi. So on the payment as well as distribution side, the company took a lot of steps to go digital. But things like collecting milk from various villages, transporting to the nearest chilling center, these are very labor-intensive jobs which can't particularly be mechanized. So on that front, what were the steps that you took to improve the supply chain and go digital?
Well, Rimaji, first thing is one has to communicate all the supply chain members that look here, this is the time of crisis. and whether to the farmers or to transporter, driver, cleaner, workers, that besides your normal job or duty, it is your duty to the nation. So first thing was we communicated to everybody the first 1 week when COVID started on 25th of March to 2020 that look here, milk is essential. So everybody came out. So first is you have to provide them all the safety measures. Second, because all shops were closed, hotel, restaurants were closed. So first thing was they were provided food in all our drivers and cleaners in the plants. So all were there. And the other thing was we have to see that our all the distributor and retailers are also inclined to come. So providing them the permission, contacting the local authorities to get all the permissions for the movement of trucks and the other thing were provided. And other thing was that giving incentives, or distributors, drivers, cleaner were giving extra compensation when they were working during this COVID.
Absolutely, and it's thanks to the work, the effort that you all have put in that we've had uninterrupted milk supply, not even a day's break or even late, for that matter. Mr. Dilip, the pandemic forced most companies to make drastic changes overnight, though not applicable to Amul per se, but something like working from home. Or many of them had to operate their factories at restricted hours. On a broad level, what was the business transformation roadmap that you developed for CPG companies in particular?
We've been making a lot of investments in our own supply chain automation. We are an automation company, but it wasn't until 10 plus years ago that we strategically started making investments into our supply chain automation. And it was, during last year, as we entered the pandemic stages, that we started actually accruing the advantages on account of this. And I'll give you a couple of examples here, right? Having got one common, global instance of SAP and also manufacturing execution systems across all of our global operations, that gave us, unparalleled visibility into our global supply chain. And what do you do with that visibility? It enables you to basically adapt your manufacturing footprint and your supply chain, allowing you to throttle or increase your inventory where it is needed, and where you see challenges, shifting your manufacturing elsewhere. Because, Mr. Sodhi, his organization is completely devoted towards supporting essential services. We support organizations like him, that support, essential services, right? So we had to make sure that, we were there when we were called upon to extend services, right? We having sound systems like this and platforms, allowed us to actually execute ideas like, we staffed together a COVID Tiger team, right? Which actually made it easy for us to take a look at real-time, information about availability of raw material, parts, finished goods, and also demand where it was coming from global regions, right? And prioritize, right? Supporting always industries like life sciences, like personal care or food products, which had to be prioritized over the rest of the things. And having quality real-time information actually enabled us to do that.
Mr. Sodhi, have you used big data and analytics to understand your demand, what consumers want, what kind of flavors, products, and even to optimize your supply chain? And if yes, could you share some of your learnings?
Rimaji, like Dilipji mentioned, operational and manufacturing automation and digital transformation is or was happening in India at its pace, but this COVID has accelerated 3 to 4x. I tell you, the confidence and trust in remote automation and digital transformation increased tremendously, not only with the management, but also with the workers, managerial staff, especially your supply chain partners, because everybody was more dependent on this digital transformation and data available through your automation. I give you example of three. See, in milk, the digital automation starts at the milk collection center. We have got automatic milk collection systems at each society. So their data of 3.6 million farmers for twice in a day, how much milk given, what quality, how many animals, okay, and what money paid to them. That is collected, analyzed throughout Gujarat. Then second is the payment system. How payment has to transfer right from consumer to the centralized Anand system, from here to district union, from there to milk collection center, and to the farmers. The whole system is through our data transfer through various things. Then third, very important, beside the milk is, you see, we are providing lot of veterinary services to these 3.6 million farmers. So we have got interactive system with the farmers where automatically any animal is sick, messages coming, and it is transferred to the 1,000 veterinary in the field to what type of veterinary services are required. Then the second is in the supply chain, the data analysis, like I mentioned earlier also, movement of trucks. The third very important, which is applicable to everything, in the plants. You see, now what we are going for centralized command system, because how to work remotely, you can't invite everybody to the plant especially. So how from the home or from central command system, one can manage the whole plant. And you walk into now dairy, most of plant are automated plant. You'll find very few people. Mostly people are working in the packing line on the operation, loading, unloading, and other thing. But processing side is whole less automated. And the fourth most important, I think, this automation has worked for the consumers. See, sitting at home, if you want to buy a particular product like Amul cheese during lockdown, you can find for Amul outlet sitting on an app that where product is available nearest to the house. Or for the retailer, Amul track system, where retailer could order on the app for Amul products to the particular distributor, it will reach and it will be monitored from Anand or from headquarters that such as such retailer is getting the product from the distributor or not. So this journey of digital transformation or automations has really got accelerated during this lockdown and got encouragement, confidence and trust. And also companies are now investing because people are finding this is the only thing on which you can depend in any eventuality.
But Dilip, what if the company is small? What if their warehouses and factories are completely outdated and revamping it costs money? And in the last 1 year, many companies are operating on a tighter budget. They have lost money. But then what is the solution?
That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked me that, right? So, there isn't like a one playbook that you implement for digital transformation. You got to really be very context sensitive. You got to really know, if you, the customer, what is your current business situation? What are the biggest challenges that you faced with? Life Rema is about 80-20, right? Which are those 20%, interventions that will allow you to unlock 80% value, right? In short, you got to have business clarity before you begin to implement your digital transformation, initiatives, right? So by identifying, in some cases, it may be just something as simple as being able to, that compared to the rest of the industry, your utilities costs are way too high. And sometimes we find that people have, despite having a lot of investments, they have no way to measure their water and school. And what you cannot measure, you cannot control. And a lot of wastages happen over there, right? So it really comes down to having a thoughtful approach to understand what your business context really is, what are the business problems, and then identifying the most appropriate interventions, and then going from over there. So there isn't like a one and done approach that you should think about. As opposed to that, you should try and understand, what are the biggest challenges you're faced with, and have an approach which allows you to address that, gain more confidence, pick up another use case, and gain further confidence, and then go from there.
You spoke about technologies like data analytics, AI, and how they're the benefits that accrue to a company based using that. But in a connected enterprise, cybersecurity also assumes paramount importance. You talk about the thought process, the investments that the companies need to make in cybersecurity.
That's a very, very important aspect. I'm glad you asked that question, Rima, because what happens is the first instance where you have, an interruption on account of, a breach in your security, there goes all the trust and the confidence of your plant operation people, your corporate headquarters, what have you, key stakeholders. They begin to lose trust. So having a sound cybersecurity strategy that allows you to have defense in depth, that allows you to envisage where all the access points are and how do you make those access points more robust, and how do you have a common strategy that is implemented across the enterprise, be it on the IT side or on the OT side. It puts you in control. It makes sure that you do not have those instances which create not only business interruption, but which have an even more deep-rooted impact, which is scarring the experience of your key decision makers and getting them to not put so much of trust and faith on digital technology. So the good part is that there's a lot of help that's available, because much like how the bad actors have advanced, the security technologies have been advancing at an even more greater pace. A lot of emphasis has happened, and I've seen a lot of improvement and a lot of focus that has come in, even during the pandemic times, on security aspects, particularly applied to OT side cybersecurity. OT meaning operational technologies, which are applicable to manufacturing enterprises.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. Lots of interesting, inputs, information, insights on how the CPG industry, the milk industry in particular, overcame the challenges that the pandemic threw on us in the last 1 year, the benefits of using automation, artificial intelligence, data analytics, just basic steps on how one can be a digital first organization, be crisis resilient, future ready. A very, very interesting conversation. Thank you once again for joining in. Thanks for joining in to this session. Stay tuned for the next one.
It all starts with a push of a button. Your manufacturing process begins, and the smart devices in your system begin to pull data. The information from your smart devices starts to flow, generating real-time diagnostic data on the health of your machine and performance trends. The information you need to keep you informed and your operations running to make smart decisions. Rockwell Automation can help you transform your machines and equipment to be smarter. Smart starts here. It all starts with the push of a button.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shali Verma, the Business Development Leader for Network and Security Services India. It's a pleasure to have you all, and today I'll be talking on the topic of business continuity with connected services. Well, every business today is challenged from a cybersecurity perspective, and we know that it's only getting worse. We have a very active threat landscape impacting ICS networks, and this does not get limited only to the nation-state adversaries that target critical infrastructure, but also the non-targeted attacks like NotPetya and WannaCry. And they have caused billions of losses to operations from collateral damage and has a huge impact on CPG organizations. Recently, though, it's been roughly to the tune of $12 billion in damages due to ransomware attacks. And if not more, 53% of industrial manufacturers have experienced a cybersecurity breach in their facility. Question is, why are they being targeted? And the simple answer is these organizations were never built with security in their mind, and hence their legacy unpatched infrastructure, lack of skilled resources, all these build up to, they are not able to manage their cyber risk as well as posture. And these unscheduled downtimes, which we do not want to have, still continue to happen without having the right mechanism, tools, and processes in place. If I may say and call out some facts, we do know that most companies today also take nearly 6 months to detect a data breach. And the total cost of cybercrime committed globally shall soon reach 6 trillion US dollars this year alone in 2021. And so we cannot ignore that managing life cycle of assets and IT/OT convergence with appropriate skill sets and tools is very critical to cyber hygiene and production uptime. In these times of needs, this is the answer, or what is the best practice as Rockwell we consider, and making sure that today, as we see in the current pandemic, we believe digitally transformed businesses are best positioned to deal with the current pandemic because they have the tools and mechanisms to sustain a lot of their current production than for organizations who have not been prepared. So typically, what do we mean to say or tell you is that our engagement begins with infrastructure development and management services. These offerings are designed to help you assess, design, and build a secure infrastructure and then protect and maintain it. Offerings could range from network assessments, your data centers, implementation of managed security services, under industrial cybersecurity, threat detection services, and remote support. And we also understand that a focus on one side of the business could open vulnerabilities to the other. And so, with our partner ecosystem, as we call it, we bring in the best of both the worlds so that we can make the bridge between OT and IT. All it needs is alignment and effective listening and building a cross functional task force. Now, this is not new, and Rockwell has been deploying network and cybersecurity solutions globally for over a decade now. And as part of the connected services suite, as you see here on your right, this set of offerings is focused on helping you design and implement and manage your entire OT environment. These are automation agnostic services. And whether you're a single site or an enterprise, the services are scaled to meet you at your journey in a globally consistent manner. Now, we do understand that when you prepare, we say prepare for not only bad actor hackers, but also the well-intentioned mistakes. Your facility of the future requires comprehensive cybersecurity that does beyond traditional IT systems and industrial DMZ, and even a defense in-depth strategy. The next step in maintaining business continuity is to adopt capabilities and addressing risk across an attack continuum. The Nist cybersecurity framework here outlines the following functions as a good place to start in implementing strong cyber hygiene practices. Now, these steps will also prepare you for IEC 62443 global standard requirements. Understand your current attack surface and asset vulnerabilities, including your higher risk, obsolete hardware or software. Try and implement protective measures to safeguard your industrial control systems. Work with a partner to vigilantly monitor risks and detect when threats bypass your protection mechanisms. Develop an action plan for immediate response to security incidents and to minimize damage. Quick recovery and return to production with root cause incident investigation should definitely follow. By practicing good cyber hygiene, you can minimize disruptions to your operations. This program can be built in-house with the support of industry consultants. Look for experience that spans both IT and OT network security design. Basically, in this attack continuum where we say before any cyber incident, during a cyber incident, and after a cyber incident, you should be prepared to deal with every stance. And come to think of it, consider the four outcomes that you see that we are driving towards in the journey to secure digital transformation with connected services capabilities. Where are we meeting our customers on their journey towards any of these outcomes, and how do we position them for success? With that thought in mind, I'm now taking on the technologies that we could use to see how we could respond to in the current situation, right? Here I'm talking about something using an augmented reality, and I could combine with our traditional system. Actually, in this case, as you see, we avoided a delay in startup of a machine. Now, due to the COVID, we all agree that we have our own challenges, travel arrangements, and hence similarly, our engineer assigned across the continent could not travel to the site. And here we prepared a local engineer with medium skills, and then the assigned expert remotely collaborated with the engineer at site using augmented reality. This way, we've been helping reduce downtime and troubleshooting time across many industries. As you see here, we do have our solutions which provide and empower your people with the instant over-the-shoulder field support. Yet another offering and something to maintain business continuity are OT managed services. These services can focus on reducing enterprise risk while increasing operational productivity, while maintaining a flexible spending model. In order to take advantage of the latest advances in technology, manufacturers must first address the operational challenges created and magnified by what we call as smart manufacturing. Yeah. This could be the workforce skill gap, your aging workforce, making plants more prone to unscheduled downtime. And we do not want that, right? In addition, downtime costs have escalated and companies are under pressure to improve productivity and address aggressive capacity demands. Now, these factors make operational efficiency and containing MRO expense critical. At the same time, we do have manufacturers who must respond to increasing environmental regulations and mandates around safety and other risks on the plant floor. And of course, manufacturers are on high alert for cybersecurity breaches and threats to physical infrastructure. Now, where does Rockwell help you? Rockwell Automation can literally help guide customers through the IT/OT convergence journey and address all these operational challenges. We currently have a suite of OT managed service offerings that can be delivered individually or collaboratively to manage customer outcomes for them. And generally, we cover them under the three topics of application, infrastructure, and cyber. Altogether, managing the entire environment for our customers through our 16 remote centers, remote support centers, 24 into 7, 365 days, follow the sun approach. With that said, yet another feature is digital install base. Now, digital install base is where we take stock of each and every asset in your production floor. And it's part of your digitization journey, and you look into your entire footprint. Now, this dashboard, as you see here, my equipment is shared across to every customer. This is your single version of truth of your assets. It tells about the life cycle status, gives recommendations for critical spares, and becomes the driving factor for digitalization journey. And at the same time, I know that what I have in my system from cybersecurity perspective. It is very good in maintaining your dynamic asset inventory information consistent across and future ready for you, making sure that you are avoiding or at bay with the obsolescence risk that you keep seeing in your stores. Yet another, and that is very critical given the pandemic that we are into, secure remote access. Now, the production centers are communicating to different people at different times, both internally or externally. Now, those may be your OEM partners, your third party vendors, Now, how do we ensure that every communication line is secure? Secure remote access helps minimize the risks introduced to OT networks by these remote uh, capabilities, which is by providing a secure application tunnel, enforcing the right policies and processes, having a proactive monitoring mechanism, and maintaining an audit trail so you do not lose control of your system. Next, and yet another important field that we feel is critical for any organization, and we ourselves do propagate the same, which is e-learning, a very vital platform. It helps you develop your skill sets. You can assess, train, measure, and refine them. And these could be a combination of different controllers, yeah, different OT assets, connected enterprise, like cybersecurity and industrial IoT. Sometimes there could be a combination of soft skills that the team needs, so they could be offered over e-learning courses. Well, there are a million of possibilities that we could use to keep our production centers up using combination of technologies across the board. With that, I believe we've covered all the topics which we wanted to show you when it comes to business continuity. And if I may say, I'd like to wrap my session with a simple thought that it's time to take a closer look at your cyber hygiene. If you have any questions or queries, please type it for us in the chat box and we shall get back to you with our responses. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Hi, my name is Viju Jatindran, and I am a senior manager with Calypso, a Rockwell automation company focused on consumer packaged goods. My presentation today covers how companies in the FMCG space are beginning to take advantage of digital processes and capabilities to drive meaningful, tangible business results. This past year has brought about unprecedented changes in how we execute work, interact with other people, and procure items that we need for our day-to-day lives. There has been a sharp increase in online purchases driven by the pandemic. In India alone, a recent study showed that 42% of urban active internet users are shopping online during the COVID-19 pandemic, with nearly half of those being first-time online shoppers. The e-commerce industry in India is expected to grow about 84% in 4 years, and consumer demands and preferences are also changing. Companies therefore need to adapt in order to meet those demands. This brings about a need to digitalize traditional analog processes across the value chain, and then consolidate and leverage data across these siloed systems and processes as well. Digital transformation is therefore no longer a nice to have, but almost a necessity in today's environment. Before we go any further, it is important to first define a few critical terms that we will use throughout this presentation. The first term is the digital thread. The digital thread, as the slide describes, is a seamless flow of data that connects business processes across the value chain to deliver measurable benefits to the organization, such as reduction in operational costs and unplanned downtimes, a measurable increase in factory output and throughput, increases in overall equipment effectiveness, greater workforce and labor productivity, and so on. Now, in other words, imagine the vast amounts of data associated or produced at each stage of a product's life cycle, from design, sourcing, testing, and production to distribution, point of sale, and use. Now, imagine this data existing as a single version of the truth and flowing consistently across various business functions and processes, always evolving with new and more relevant information, but never getting lost or regenerated, thereby resulting in increased collaboration and alignment across the organization. The digital thread describes that seamless flow of data, and companies today are constantly looking at ways to enable this digital thread and bring it to life. If we can imagine a product lifecycle from discover, create, make, and sell, the individual activities across the value chain, represented as non-linear nodes in this diagram that you're seeing, can be supported by a combination of digital tools that allow for different competitive capabilities. For example, we utilize data science and advanced analytics to drive predictive and prescriptive insights for new product discovery and development, increasing the ability for proactive decision making. We can also blend digital and physical experiences to gain additional insight in the product development process and increase collaboration and alignment among different business functions. Now, here is where the concept of the digital twin comes into play. The digital twin creates a digital representation of the physical entity or system across its life cycle using comprehensive data, analytics, simulations, and emulations. As we move across the value chain from create to make, this is where the designed product is now being manufactured. Companies are reaping the benefits of intelligent automation in the plants through the use of control systems and connected machines. As we move further within operations and field services, the use of extended reality solutions help operators and maintenance engineers enhance their situational awareness. They are able to augment reality or operate in a virtual world through the use of wearable devices and associated technology platforms. They're able to drive remote service and equipment maintenance, virtually collaborate with different teams, and improve plant floor assembly and operations. And finally, the digital thread ensures that the seamless flow of data bridges traditional boundaries through the use of smart connected products and services. Within FMCG, we often see barriers between R&D or product development and manufacturing functions. One of the common complaints from R&D, for example, is that when the product is manufactured, changes are made to composition or packaging without fully understanding product quality or performance implications. Similarly, the manufacturing and operations side of the house often complain that R&D designs the product without fully taking into account manufacturability. So the specific effort, time, and equipment required to make the product according to spec. And this leads to schedule delays. The digital thread helps in breaking down several of these barriers and allows firms to unlock new opportunities. A key concept that applies here is the digital twin of the product. Now, as I mentioned before, technology available today allows firms to create a digital representation of the physical product and apply various analysis, simulations, and emulations to it to model not only how the product performs under multiple conditions, but also how the product can be most efficiently manufactured. In the area of product development, for example, we can model and simulate physical, chemical, and sensory reactions to external stimuli. For example, what does a brown bottle look like to a consumer under different shades of lighting with and without the product in it? Or how does it react and maintain structural integrity when dropped? On the manufacturing and operations side, we can emulate the manufacturing process, essentially creating a digital twin of the line, the workstations, the equipment, and emulate the product moving across that line. And this is done to identify throughput, yield, bottlenecks, and all of the above. All of this data is collected, analyzed, and distributed back into the product lifecycle to drive deeper insight and support better decision making. Calypso and Rockwell Automation work with our clients to deliver multiple use cases across the value chain. Now, while there are many use cases that we could go through in great detail, for the purposes of this presentation, I would like to highlight just a few examples where we have applied advanced capabilities to unlock a great deal of business value for our clients. The first case study is about predicting specification rejections. Now, this is a simple yet effective example of how the application of machine learning models can improve product development time and effort. Within R&D, product developers create and change a large number of product specifications on a daily basis. Each of these specifications need to go through a multifunctional review and approval process. Now, while most systems have certain hard-coded rules built into them, things like maintaining ratios of certain ingredient groups or ensuring product weight checks from ingredient to final packaging, the number of rules can multiply exponentially depending on product complexity and then can be hard to manage and maintain. Quality issues therefore continue to persist. Machine learning models were created to review historical data, detect patterns in past specification rejections, and identify inconsistencies among similar parts and entries that don't comply with business-defined rules. The results are displayed in panel then within the product development platform, bringing in support at just the right moment in the workflow, notifying the users that this current specification faces a high risk of rejection because it has detected similarities with other specs in the past that have been rejected. Another example of the use of advanced analytics to speed up the product development process is applying machine learning models to compare in real time how similar a formula or product under development is to other approved formulas or products that then informs the developer to the extent of safety testing and approvals that may be required. The models show visualized side-by-side comparisons of the current formula with other approved formulas at the ingredient level and calculates a so-called nearness rating based on quantitative evaluations of things like regulatory constraints, toxicity levels, etc. The developer can then quickly identify what procedures, documentations, and additional clearances, if any, they need to get in order to get this product approved. Another use case for digital is the visualization and dashboarding of overall equipment efficiency within manufacturing operations. Companies today still have antiquated paper-based systems on the manufacturing floor. A lot of people essentially calculating key production metrics and KPIs by hand without any sort of real-time aggregation of process information. We replace these paper-based boards with visual touchscreen interactive ones that capture in real time the KPIs that impact availability, performance, and quality of production operations. This improved visibility drives more accurate resource allocation and capacity planning, leading to improved OEE and on-time delivery. Finally, we look at a scenario where our clients are digitizing entire new product lines. So this example comes from a situation where this is a completely new product being developed for the first time. And our clients are working with us to put the entire digital thread from start to finish in place. From collaborative engineering, where we are putting in place a centralized platform to manage and collaborate on designs, to using technology platforms to execute complex computational analysis of physical processes and dynamics. Integrating that then into the digital twin, where we are virtually commissioning the line. And then finally, utilizing machine learning for asset optimization, prescribing set point adjustments for equipment that proactively optimize process outputs. Now that we have looked at the story of the digital thread, applicable use cases, and the key steps in beginning to unlock this digital potential, the next question is, how do we enable or implement these digital capabilities to drive tangible business benefit? The first step is to define what we call a blueprint to success, right? Define the core use cases that are of interest and develop a roadmap of prioritized capability builds that are tied to, and this is very important, actual business value. The next steps are to define the enterprise architecture and develop a proof of value. The proof of value is a demonstrable proof of a specific business critical use case that also includes the build out of the essential production ready foundational and infrastructure components needed to support that use case. Now, in setting it up this way, the POV approach allows for quick scaling of the solution to production. This approach differs from typical proof of concept approaches as it is focused on demonstrating the achievement of business value and minimizing any throwaway infrastructure components, rather than demonstrating a set of technical capabilities in a standalone manner. By doing this, you are focused on the priority use cases, you deploy a full stack of capabilities, and you add value first, followed by scaling. In conclusion, organizations today are leveraging digital tools and technologies to enable the digital thread and bring to life the connected enterprise. In the FMCG industry, companies can embark on this journey by identifying the key use cases that result in measurable business benefits, and then utilize a proof of value approach to quickly and comprehensively prove out their hypothesis. Once the proof of value works and proves out the hypothesis, it is pretty easy then to scale that up quickly across the enterprise to achieve true and lasting digital transformation. Thank you for your time today. I hope this was a valuable session for you. Thank you.
Today's manufacturers are operating in a time of unprecedented change. Faced with a workforce that's rapidly approaching retirement, legacy technologies that frustrate younger, digitally savvy employees, and products and processes that are becoming increasingly complex, one thing is clear: it's time for a new approach. For solutions that make it easier to maximize workforce productivity, to share knowledge across the enterprise, simplify training, and provide real-time access to information on the plant floor. What if you could bring your top talent to any problem, no matter the location? What if you could connect people on the plant floor with remote experts to resolve issues faster, save money by eliminating the need for on-site visits and travel, and improve uptime and operational efficiency? Rockwell Automation and Digital Thread make all of this possible today. Using technologies like Augmented Reality, a new operator can get real-time support from a seasoned expert located anywhere in the world. You can document standard operating procedures and make that knowledge available on demand. And you can put detailed walkthroughs and step-by-step instructions with drawings and overlays onto the machines that are right in front of the workers. With Digital Thread, an operator can seamlessly access information like safety precautions hands-free from the plant floor, as well as learn new skills and get up to speed on new designs faster. By empowering your workforce with Digital Thread, your organization can increase operational effectiveness and safety, connect people with expertise anywhere through remote collaboration, and decrease training time by up to 75%. And you can see the value of your Digital Thread investment increase as more digital content is shared and reused. Rockwell Automation can help unlock your digital potential by adopting digital technologies with a focus on empowering people that leads to increased safety, productivity, and efficiency. Leveraging over 100 years of experience, we bring deep domain expertise across manufacturing industries, pre-integration with a best-in-class partner ecosystem, and comprehensive consulting and delivery services that support you every step of the way. So, when you're ready, we can help you maximize workforce productivity by enabling faster, easier capture and sharing of knowledge, reducing training time, and ensuring operator effectiveness and compliance. All done through an enterprise connected with digital thread. Find out more at rockwellautomation.com and schedule a value workshop with one of our domain experts today.
Consumer packaged goods (CPG) is one of the fastest growing GCC segments in India. They were quick to adapt, leverage new technology innovations, and strengthen digital capabilities. In this webinar today, we look at the evolution of the CPG industry in India, their digital transformation initiatives, how automation can improve their operational efficiency, and why cybersecurity and automation are the key digital investment priorities. Introducing my eminent panelists, Mayank Shah, Senior Category Head at Parley Products, Mr. Manish Bandlish, the MD at Mother Dairy, Ashish Pandey, the Tech Lead India Subcontinent at GSK Consumer Healthcare India, Mr. Suket Gohil, GEA Country Managing Director, Arvind Kakru, Country Head End User Business at Rockwell Automation India. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you with us. Manish, just when we were hoping that the worst of COVID is behind us, the economic recovery is on the mend, India has been crushed under this second COVID wave. How different is it this time around compared to the last time around? Because you are an essential service provider. So you braved the storm last time and you have to this time as well. And then later on, if you could tell us the measures that you undertook through the course of last year to adapt.
I think as a company, as an industry, last 7, 8, 9 months, I think most of the companies have evolved and understood how to handle this pandemic, especially on the employee front, where we have tried to keep our employees as safe as possible. Secondly, on business continuity, I think there's a lot of work which happened. There were SOPs drawn by most of the companies, especially in our system. And basis that we were able to continue business without any major disruptions. And when we saw these pandemic really hovering on our heads, I think we were able to take measures to avoid any losses in certain products, which we might see that the sales might go down. Supply chains were adjusted accordingly. So I think we have been able to handle this wave quite well, I would say, and so many other companies as well.
Mayank, the pandemic caused disruptions in demand, but also in supply chains. There were labor shortages, there were forced closures of factories last year, delivery routes got impacted, there were component shortages at the same time. Customer expectations of order fulfillment continue to remain high. If you could share what were your key learnings, what were the measures that you undertook as a company which are holding you in good stead today?
There was a lot of learning that came in. It started from movement of goods. So initially, I think as a knee-jerk reaction, everything was shut down. Then it was realized that you have to continue at least with essentials. So then, definition of essentials. What would constitute of essential, services or goods? So food, of course, was part of it. But when you say food, what all food should be there? And then it was realized that, you cannot be selective about it. All foods should be classified as essential. So initially it was thought it was just grains, dairy and fresh. But later on, governments, local governments and local administration realized that you cannot keep processed food, which is integral part of the total food consumption of the country, that cannot be kept out and has to be categorized as essential, especially categories like biscuit, or let's say categories like bakery, rusk, bread, those kind of things. So they included those as a part of essentials. So that way movement of goods was made completely free. I mean, there was no restriction on movement of goods, any sort of goods, which was a good thing that happened. although it happened late last time, but this time, if you look around, you've seen that learning coming in and being handy.
Ashish, we've heard companies through the course of last year saying how they reimagined their business. This was a time to put their digital foot forward. Can you tell us the big change that you've seen in the industry in terms of preparedness, the resilience that the CPG industry has shown? Manish was talking about some SOPs for business continuity that companies have put in place. Could you elaborate a little bit more about the evolution that we've seen in the last 1 year?
Overall transaction behavior at the consumer end has changed significantly. Now, maybe we don't even have the right kind of data where consumer used to spend. So earlier we used to take like POS data. We used to get different kinds of report around the footfall. Those are not available at all. So what I see that the overall industry engagement around social behavior of consumers and that has also changed, and that's also changing. So this is one of the phenomenal difference where I see that things are moving more towards e-commerce. That is one thing which has changed tremendously. As of now, India is not that well placed in terms of giving the customer entire omni-channel experience that I can see the product in a store, I can order it later on my mobile, or I can order it on my web. And maybe I can raise a complaint just by visiting another outlet. So that is yet to evolve, but I see that things are moving in that direction. So these are few of the indicators which I see that it's going to drive overall CPG industry on. And the phenomenon is just not in India, I believe it's globally.
Arvind, could you share more examples of how you've used data analytics, the insights that you've gathered to actually make a difference in the customer's journey? Could you share some real examples?
Sure. All right. So I think, there have been tremendous leverages as far as consumer behavior is concerned, as far as data analytics go. And they also have been used very effectively for deploying marketing techniques and also in distribution, which could be predictive demands and forecasting and retailing and those aspects, etc. But there's a big aspect related to manufacturing as well, which is more related to use cases which are, getting the efficiency out of the whole manufacturing process as such. There are multiple things which are related to evolution and evolving and understanding of historical and current performances. There are things, or applications which are related to correlations in the past, analyzing the root causes, the behaviors of the processes, So these are very, very, I would say, significant. And then they kind of translate into predicting future, I would say, what will happen and, get the foresights out of the air. And then, prescribe evidence-based recommendation to improve the future outcomes, So these would be then kind of deployed all over other than automation. And then these things get on top. And then you also look at the aspects related to specifics of manufacturing, which are related to, getting all the processes integrated together, getting energy monitoring and efficiency better, looking at whole enterprise integration, which would be related to product lifecycle management and integrating them with multiple sources like ERPs and manufacturing execution systems and all those kind of things, And then always, there's things like always on monitoring, which is an algorithm that monitors external data sources and looks at, applications of the machine learning and advanced analytics to define certain business parameters depending upon, what the application is. So these would be some of the things, that will keep on going much more aggressively. Then there are, digital use cases around AR and VR, which are used much more robustly, also around additive manufacturing and 3D printing.
I'll come back to you on more on these data transformation tools, AR, VR, as well as 3D printing. But Mr. Gohil, getting you in the discussion, can you tell us in your line of work, how different is the work that you're doing today compared to pre-pandemic? In what way, CPG companies, according to you, have changed, and therefore their requirement from companies like you?
fortunately, we are into quite advanced in terms of supplying automation to the level of, connectivity to the cloud and web-based connections and all. And through that, what we could do, one of the very large integrated dairy we were setting up for, say, KMF, we commissioned last year, May, in 2020 May, offline only we could send 2 people from here through a special government permission, but almost 15 to 20 people sitting in Vadodara, our headquarters, they were commissioning and supporting through the web-based and cloud-based systems, and we could commission. So this demand, what we have seen, has continuously been improvised and also being demanded by our all the customers, what we face, like all the dairy and food customers.
Can you talk about how data analytics as well as artificial intelligence has played a role in Parley's business and digital transformation?
I think, compared to what it was prior to we adapting these things, we adapting technology, it was more going by gut. It was more going by, the historic trends. All the decisions were based on it. And by the time you realize whether, whatever you're doing is right or wrong, it was too late. So just to give you an example, you might think that, as per this particular season, there are these products which would do better and you should be pushing more of them. And this particular SKUs, there might be times when you might be right with that prediction or your, historic learning. But with the changing market, changing consumer taste, which is very dynamic, there were quite a few times when, you were not right or the gut feel was not right. Then you are settled with stocks which are not really moving, and it's really difficult to then, get rid of that stocks or salvage the situation. In a situation like that, what technology in terms of, playing a role is that the data acquisition that has happened over a period of time or has been acquired plays a key role in understanding, how things move. It gives you pinpointed action points in terms of, what you should be producing, what would be required when, and you have a plethora of data coming in from multiple points. So let's say with a automated Salesforce software, if you are let's say reaching about 2.5 million outlets, you have the data point of so many outlets and what they require, what are they selling, or what are they buying from you rather, and what's being bought from them. So given that, I think you are far better placed. That's where the AI thing helps. That's where, it helps you in terms of predicting how things would move going forward and what is it that you should be focusing on.
So, at a time when there is so much fear about being in confined places, in proximity to other people, the benefit of AR, VR comes to mind. Have we seen increased adoption in the last 1 year?
So we developed some standard operating procedures. We provided AR, VR-based remote monitoring to some of them. We were able to operate some of the plants remotely using some of the digital tools, that we had and the automation systems that we had, and we were able to put back some of these quickly in operation. We also were able to kind of train some of these people, wherein the visits were particularly not possible, and we were able to train some of the operation and maintenance people from these companies and plants to put the put the operation back in place. So I think those were very, very critical kind of areas, starting small, but they expanded much more bigger as we move forward. People have been adopting much more vigorously and aggressively on some of these things. We have even now gone to the extent of predicting shortages in stocks and arranging new shipments, and wherein the CPG businesses can monitor product locations and inventory using the IoT devices, and other transaction data and third-party sources also integrating all of the data. So it's developed quite a bit, and some of the adoption has taken a real big leap forward, and we think it will continue pretty strongly going forward as well.
Ashish, before that, consumer companies have learned their lessons in the last 1 year. They're much, much better prepared to handle it. And the supply chains have been tested. In a matter of few months, once again, we've come to check the resilience and the agility of their supply chain. Do you still see any fault lines in your operations, or where do you think the industry still has some more scope to improve?
I think the part is that industry-wide, and maybe everyone can check it on their own also. You will see that there is a better availability of products. And unlike the last time, we can see that everything is available. And this is all. There is also a reason behind it, because we have learned. We have learned overall as an industry, and also from the government perspective, we all have learned. So I think that kind of disruption we are not seeing right now. And the major of the learning manifestation is still around that when the regular channels are not working, then what one should be doing next, so that everything remains same. Last time we observed, I think across industry everyone observed that there was a irregular kind of spike in sales. It all of a sudden skyrocketed, and then it started plummeting. Even for the data, when I speak to my fellow peers in industry, even the data which is available, they discard the 2020 data. They say that it is a complete outlier data. They cannot rely on it entirely. The way market was predicting, the way consumer was predicting, it was not seen at all. And this year also, we are seeing a similar pattern, but not entirely, because again the supply chain is not impacted at all. I think personally we can see that all across.
Mayank, COVID made remote working or work from home the new normal, but that is fine for employees with desk jobs. For factories to operate, you still need people physically present on the ground. So how did you get your factories to operate uninterrupted? Was there a requirement to purchase new, more automated, more efficient machinery?
Yeah, so there are two things here. One, as you rightly said, there would be some manpower that would be required. Definitely, you cannot have completely zero manpower factories. Some manpower definitely is required, but the degree of automation is increasing. From a time when automation used to be somewhere around 20-30% few years back, to today where the automation is to the tune of almost about 60 and 70%. In certain cases, almost about 80-90%, and what you require is only people who are loading, unloading raw material and finished goods, and the entire process otherwise is completely automated. So we have both the extremes. Now, what happens is there is always a trade-off in between the kind of investment that one has to do into automizing the entire process, especially the packing, loading, unloading part. So while you have machines, you have automation available for doing it, the cost of that still is really high. Given the Indian scenario where labor is not that costly, it turns out to be cheaper to have labor and do that. Then so I think there is a trade-off there, and the tipping point would be the day you will have automation or machines which will automate this processes coming in at a rate which can be probably more or less same as that of employing labor. I think that would be the tipping point, and that's when you will see a huge eruption of automation. COVID forced most companies in adapting more automation, not that they were not automating or they were not adapting to automation or going for automation, but that only accelerated the entire process.
Arvind, just digitization and artificial intelligence, these are the two mantras that Suket said is the way forward if you want to create a supply chain of the future. Can you share some ROIs your customers have enjoyed, how you've implemented artificial intelligence to improve one supply chain?
On improving product data, significant R&D and supply chain benefits can be realized. Some of them would be achieving end-to-end visibility, to the core product information. They would be accelerating, product time to market. They would be reducing the cost of quality due to more reliable data with respect to, say, scrap, rework, recall, all those kind of things. And also safety aspect of it, food quality and how it is stored and how, some of the taste kind of comes into picture and all those kind of things. They require a good amount of control as far as digital, I would say track and trace is concerned, looking at those compliance, regulatory and quality risks also associated with that. So these would be some of the key areas, Other than that, I can think of minimizing the new product development and direct material costs. These are very significantly improved, when people kind of deploy some of these tools, and also in increasing the internal product development resource capacity, which is directly impacting, people and productivity overall. So some of them could be really, really impactful, from a manufacturing or even just production point of view. And then people take it to a next level altogether, wherein they can kind of go into predictive modelings and linking their back-end and front-end supply chains, and even going to the models of predicting behavior of, how retailers would look at it, how consumers would look at it, and how your back-end supply chain will look at it. So I would say, there are implications and benefits end-to-end, overall, and also they have to be necessary, I would say, cyber securities, the strategies deployed to take care of all the digital strategies that people deploy.
Can I add one point? Sorry for what I also see that from the trend which I have observed, earlier there was a cost implication which was involved a lot in supply chain. Considering this 1.5-year journey or 2-year journey, I think we have surpassed that. It's purely the emphasis is around the business continuity, that what I should be doing so that my business is not getting entirely a safe process. People, which is that focus has been there, and now I see that the cost modeling is impacted also. Otherwise, there was a lot of emphasis on how I can save cost. Now that shift has also changed, and there is a better and fast adoption. That's all. Thanks.
In fact, that was going to be my question to Arvind as well. Sorry, to Manish as well. Yours is an old industry. Milk collection, supply, distribution was in place in a different way even 100 years ago. Of course, it's evolved massively through the course of the last century. But, when you have to digitize, how are you seeing the payoff between the investment, the risk which is involved, vis-a-vis the reward?
See, it is always not quantifiable when you look at a ROI or when you look at a P&L around it. But look at the social benefits that one can draw out of it, and it has to be looked at from a very, very strategic point of view over a period of 5 to 10 years, especially minimum, of digitizing your overall supply chain. I'm not talking front end right now, but overall supply chain, specifically when I talked about milk collection, for example, the health of Indian economy largely depends upon the health of the farmers, and we all know that. So by using digital and by using AI, benefit of that is transparency, quality of milk which can be sourced from various sources. Eventually, that will lead to a much, much better quality of product which can go into the customer's hands. That is one part of it. Second, overall investment into supply chain. Again, I think there's a huge work which has happened in the last couple of decades in terms of making customers sensitive about the quality of the product, having a lot of government interventions and laws around quality, and on especially FSSAI and other institutions who have brought in these laws around it. I think creating that overall experience of giving the customer a right quality product itself, I think there's a huge work which is being done by most of the companies. And as this work penetrates into the customer psyche, more and more customers will finally convert from their local sources or the products which are made at the local halwais of the world into branded and safe products as well. So I think that journey in itself is a very strategic and long journey, and drawing a pin around it is sometimes very difficult.
Arvind, one aspect of digital transformation, of course, is business continuity. Something, we realized the value of that in the last 1 year. One aspect of it is bringing in efficiency in the manufacturing process, something that you spoke about. But another aspect of it is also trying to bring in potential growth opportunities, new opportunities. On that, could you could you share your thoughts and experience?
As you rightly said, it's more complex. While CPG as a business or an industry kind of looks very large and big and uniform, but it has to be segregated into kind of multiple things, right? If you have different product lines and each one of them is catering to a very different consumer segment, and you break them and there are multiple pieces, then there are things evolving with respect to healthy habits of people, consumer behavior, new entrants, startups, different types of foods and all that. So all that brings in a very complex and heady mix, in terms of competition, and also challenges some of the CPG companies for profitability and growth, as you rightly said. So I think there are a lot of things, which could be kind of, done in that direction using AI, predictive analytics. I know a lot of Indian companies who are pretty large brands are deploying this to a very large extent, which is kind of tracking the share of distribution, estimating consumer patterns, what they're trying to have and not have, looking at the stocking levels in terms of how much to stock, what not to, what kind of behaviors have been observed in the past, with respect to demand forecasting, with respect to customer segmentation, which is also understanding what type of population would have what kind of eating habits and stuff like that. And also finally related to sales activation and optimization, which is more like where possibly people will have to have promotional programs and schemes in order to maximize the market share. And finally, a very specific precision, I would say, marketing, which is towards a very richer segmentation of the customer database. Some of these things, kind of use AI and predictive analytics to a very large extent. And, I know of a lot of companies who have been using some of these digital tools to kind of get to a better market share in India.
One of the pressing needs of the hour is for the company to be digital facing, where there are multiple outlets where one can order digitally. What are the steps that you need to take at the back end to ensure that?
Well, as I just shared in the earlier part, I think what is most important is a comprehensive Salesforce automation software, where you can be agile and understand the requirement of the market and the consumer. So based on the kind of orders that you are getting from there, you can orient your entire production lines, your supply chain management infrastructure. So you might have multiple locations producing multiple varieties, SKUs. Depending on what's required, a quick understanding and a quick turnaround time based on the reports coming in from there is something that will help you. In terms of digitally ordering it, of course, I mean, it comes from the retail outlets, but now there are other channels also which are opened up. So a direct ordering by consumer, depending on what industry in which you are, what industry are you in, and whether you can, whether it's financially viable for you to service consumers directly. The other channel which is opening up is direct to consumer, D2C. So if you have that kind of spread in terms of or if you have that kind of assortment, and if it's financially viable for you to directly service consumers, there are a few companies who are doing that as well, direct to consumer. Then I think you have a plethora of data of each and every. The granularity of the data would be to the extent of knowing each and every consumer. It can be, micro customization or mass customization, I would say, where you know what is the requirement of each and every consumer, and accordingly you can orient your entire process, your SCM as well as production.
I'm just going to get in some quick closing comments from all of our speakers. Sukit, with everyone working remotely and all devices being connected, cybersecurity is of utmost importance. Can you tell us the kind of work that you are doing for your employees and your customers?
See, cybersecurity, when we talk about digitalization and AI, that cybersecurity is the first thing should come to everybody's mind, and we in GEA are very much confident that whatever systems we are implementing in our company, that will ensure not only safety for cybersecurity safety for our employees, but also for our customer. And for that, we are at the back end when we are providing, say, connectivity through cloud or through web-based web-enabled systems. We are creating enough backup and checks before a customer or consumer or our own GI employee can enter into that system. And there are multi-level security systems which are enabled. And even I can tell you, when I start my computer, unless I put my password and then SMS is generated on my mobile, I put both the things, I cannot even start my computer. So it starts with that, and that level of security we are going and giving to all our customers also, who are using our digitalized or AI based systems, whatever we have been installing at the customer's place, to ensure that we are able to access everything from our mainly most of our headquarters are actually situated in Europe, like Germany, France, Italy, and Denmark. So those people also can access that and see how our customers in India are running the plant. But they can only enter after they have passed all the securities which we have at the back end.
Very interesting. Manish, your final question: in your vision of your company, Mother Dairy, as a consumer-centric digital company, what are the transformative steps you would want to take? You've got 2 points.
I was saying it's a very interesting question because there's so much that we want to do. Summarizing that in 2 parts. So I will take one is improving our effectiveness in supply chain and manufacturing. I think there's a lot of work we have already done, and there is a lot of work which we can do. There's a lot of automation which has already happened in terms of, temperature controlling our supply chain, tracking our milk right to the source, and so on and so forth. But I think there's a lot of efficiency which we can bring further to the table. I think the second part would be more and more automating and digitizing our front end in terms of getting data from various sources, from various channel partners. Since we are omni-channel, digitizing our booths, getting more and more real-time data from those locations, and being a very agile company, giving back to the consumer what they really want, getting that information and feedback from the consumer. So I think these 2 steps can really transform Mother Dairy or any other company, for example, into a much more customer-centric organization if we follow the path right.
Okay, and Arvind, final question. Both Ashish and Manish spoke about the technology that they would like implemented in their industry as well as businesses. According to you, the most important digital transformation tools and the most important steps in the way ahead?
So I would say, first of all, people need to kind of automate all of their processes and, get to the basic level of automation, use as much as IoT-based sensors as possible, because that is the layer, that is giving finally the visibility to the larger deployment of AI or other digital tools, which could be even related to manufacturing execution systems overall, looking at product traceability, recall, etc. And I would say advanced analytics possibly is the biggest thing, within right now, other than just the consumer piece of it. Even from a manufacturing standpoint, that there are large and too many use cases that can be deployed that can overall improve the productivity and efficiency of the manufacturing and the plants as such, and also keep the companies secure and safe from a compliance and regulatory point of view. So I would say I would bet very largely to AI, as the more prominent tool, going forward.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time as well as insights.
Thank you so much for having
Thanks a
us.
lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, all of y'all.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in for the CPG Virtual Summit. We discovered some unique insights and trends that the industry experts are applying and looking to implement to make a dent in their manufacturing processes. But we're not done just yet. We have India Inc. on the move coming up in August 2021, which will be bigger and better with all the data points and digital transformation learnings from 2020.
Disruptive change with the ongoing pandemic exposing the vulnerability.
Immunity boosting product, enhancing direct distribution reach to rural marketing.